All righty. Welcome back to the S&C podcast, everyone. I'm one of your hosts, Coach Carly, and we got my other host, Matty Scar Performance, and the new guest joining us today, one of the all-time greats in my eyes, Lyndon Holtzeimer. How you doing, man?
I'm well. Thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you both.
Likewise. Fantastic, man. Thank you so much for jumping on today. We've got a whole heap of questions from Matty himself and myself and other people as well. First of all, we really want to get to know a little bit more about you. So can you tell us a little bit more about like where you are? I mean, I know you're in the sunny Sunshine Coast at the moment. I wish we were all there at the moment because it's freezing in Adelaide. But tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you got there, what you're all about, where you see yourself heading. Start us off.
All right, there's a few things there. Let me start with where I'm from. So I grew up in a small country town about 3 hours west inland from Brisbane. Some of you might know Brisbane in Australia. So yeah, small country town, maybe 500 people or so. I was a builder there for the first decade, straight out of high school, before I decided to question why I was being a carpenter, a builder. That led me on a bit of a mission, moving to Sunshine Coast, which is an hour north of Brisbane, right on the east coast of Australia. So we've been here now for coming up at 12 years. It will be. We love it. We're up on the hinterland, so about sort of 30 minutes off the coastline, and we live up in the ranges. Some of you might know or have heard of the Farm Gym, which is also in and around the UNCOM network, Luke and Acacia. So we're actually right next door to the Farm Gym here. So love living up here. We live off grid. Stef, you've been here, so you understand.
Yeah.
And got a epic wife and 4 pretty cool kids. And we just enjoy living each day to its fullest.
So we haven't spoken before, so to get a bit of background, so did you grow up on a farm in Australia when you lived there? Because I was stalking through your Instagram, to be honest, and I was looking, and you had mentioned something along the lines of you grew up on a little bit of land, and then you moved to a whole bunch of land, and then back into kind of your normal sort of house, and then back to having land. So did you grow up on a farm, or how was that?
Yeah, so growing up, we lived in town. It was might have been like a quarter of an acre of land we were on. So relatively big in today's measure of how much land you usually get for a house, But we had another plot of land maybe 10 minutes away, out kind of on the outskirts of the little town. We had 4 acres. So right from sort of lower grade school, lower primary school, we had that space where we had, go-karts and we had chooks. My sister was into horses, so she had a horse on the property there. So we always had the space, and I guess also kind of growing up in a small town, it was go anywhere, do anything, be home when the street lights come on. So we kind of had the ultimate freedom because it was a typical rural country town. So would have been when I was 12. We sold the place we were in town there. We sold the 4 acre lot we had, and we moved another probably 15 minutes out of town to a property called Spring Valley, which was 270 acres. So it was a big step up from the 4 acres that we had. So then that was kind of ultimate freedom, and it was set on a big valley, which is hence the name Spring Valley, and there's a spring running through the middle of the valley. Go figure. So it was quite cool because you got down in the bottom of there and you felt like you're in the middle of nowhere, but you're still only sort of 10 or 15 minutes back to town. So from sort of 12 through to then leaving home, that was the place we had to run around, run amok, and shoot guns and bow and arrows and ride dirt bikes and whatever we wanted really. So it was kind of the ultimate freedom, ultimate playground. So then moving back to the Sunshine Coast, it was definitely, we'd lived, so once we got married, we lived in the town there. I built a couple houses. We won't get into won't get into that story today, but had 2 houses by the time I was 24, and then the GFC came along, and I offloaded those, and then ended up getting married, having some children, and then living back in kind of suburbia in my hometown, and then relocating to the Sunshine Coast was the same thing. We came down here living in a unit. I'd never lived in like an apartment before, so that was definitely a big shift. Something that I still don't, I never got used to. I never took to that kind of living where you've got, lean out your window and high five your neighbour style thing.
Yeah. I wanted to jump in as you mentioned. Like I've been up to your place, Lyndon. The first time I actually met you in person, like it was pretty crazy. Traveled for 5 hours by plane, by train, by bus, and then jump into the car with a guy I've had a text message and a phone call with beforehand. It's like, let's go. And I remember rocking up to the farm, and I'm like, this place is insane. You got 40 acres at the moment, don't you? That's right.
We're on 4 acres. This whole property is 80 acres.
That's right.
Luke's got 40. Yes.
So you're pretty much, you are next door, not a high five away, but you're pretty close to Luke and Keish. But my first involvement being at your place, like having pretty much, because everything is off grid there, isn't it? Like you can literally shift your house and go wherever you want to go. Like that's pretty much how simple it is. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everything's been built to fold back up like a big jigsaw puzzle, essentially. So yeah, we could ship this place wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted. So yeah, a little bit more gone into the build of it, knowing that at some point it'll be we need to reverse the process that we went through to get to where it is.
Yeah, awesome. Have you? I know that we know a little bit more about your kind of direction and where you want to go, but have you thought about picking that up and moving it somewhere in particular?
I think that's what you call it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Look, we considered it. I guess my ethos, like after having the 2 houses and kind of realizing that I was never going to subscribe to the fact or the belief that your house is your biggest asset, etc., I was more interested in setting up bases. So this is where Vanuatu does enter the picture. I spent time there in 2009, right after I'd sold the houses in 2010, and I got introduced over there to the leasehold system. So they don't have any freehold land; it's all leasehold over there. You can lease land for 75 years at a time. So that made sense in my mind after just coming off the experience I'd had where interest rates went from 4% to nearly 10% over that time period. I had those 2 houses. So yes, I'd considered shipping this to Vanuatu, but at the same time, my vision's always been to have bases in different places around the world that would be low cost, off grid, and be able to spend 3 months of the year here, 6 months in Vanuatu, maybe 3 months in New Zealand. So while this could be shipped anywhere, it's probably not going to be sent to Vanuatu, this particular one. We're building some other structures over there, and this cabin will stay put for the immediate future anyway.
So run me through the thought process behind picking Vanuatu. So you said you spent some time there, but from my limited American understanding, there's a lot of islands off that coast of Australia, and there's Papua New Guinea and New Zealand, everything. How did you land on Vanuatu?
Yeah, so we went over in 2009. There was 5 islands for sale in Vanuatu. So Vanuatu, the country itself, is a chain of 83 islands. That's the first thing that people need to understand. It's not one landmass. It's a big, long chain of islands. So there was 5 little islands that were for sale, and I went over there with my business partner at the time, and we're looking at buying the 5 islands. So that was my introduction to Vanuatu. We met the chief of that area, because there's sort of 2 different parts. There's Port Vila, which is the capital, which is kind of a fair bit more developed than other parts, other islands. But yeah, so we didn't spend much time in Port Vila, the capital. We spent a lot of time down in, actually on the island where we're building the UNCOM village that's where we landed originally when we first went there in 2009. So how did we pick Vanuatu? Two things. It's super close. It's 2.5 hours off the east coast of Australia. So you literally can go there we've been there for a weekend before. Secondly, it is one of the most friendliest, down-to-earth, relaxed places I've ever been, and I've done a little bit of travel. So they've consistently been voted the number one happiest nation in the world. So there is no, this tall poppy syndrome that we have in Australia, not so much in the US, where if you're successful, someone wants to cut you down. Over there, it's just like everyone is just so pumped to be part of anything. So, location, number one, because it is so close. Number two, the people and culture. And then, number three, the affordability of land to be able to go and build what we want to build. Amazing growing conditions as well. They have sort of 2 meters of rainfall a year there, so everything grows very quickly.
Talk us through the process, Lyndon. Like, what was so obviously you've spoken about why Vanuatu, but why doing what you're doing? Why do you want to do what you're doing? Like, give us a little bit of background into the reason behind the UNCOM village and I guess UNCOM success as well. You've been really, really close with Keegan for a very, very long period of time. So it'd be really cool to get a bit of a background on the whole venture out to Vanuatu and why Vanuatu too.
Yep. Yeah. So I first met Keegan in 2015. We just had a Facebook Messenger exchange, actually. We were just reflecting on that the other day. So from then, we worked together on various different things, but became, best mates over that time period since then. In probably my third conversation with Keegan, because I did find it the other day, it was the third or fourth conversation, I was talking about Vanuatu and how the time that I'd spent there, and we spent a little bit of time in 2009, but we took our families back in 2010. And we actually stayed on Aury Island for about 5 weeks. And we actually were hosted by a gentleman called Chris Hutchins, who is the father of Damien, who is our partner in the UNCOM Village project. So, my history with Keegan goes back to 2015. It was Coach Keegan was his brand back then, coming out of NRL and just getting started on his own staff. So we had that connection around Vanuatu, and Keegan's always posed that question of how we meant to be living. I remember that question being posed quite a lot at different events that I've been to, different times we got together at Keegan's place. He ended up having the farm at UCI then as well, so that was definitely an influence. But the villages, or the UNCOM village in particular, has definitely just come out of that question of how we meant to be living. UNCOM Village is a reflection of the core values of the wider UNCOM network. Freedom, great food, and training. So, a place to go because you want to, or, if you have to go somewhere, then cool, it'll be a great place. Food, the ability to not only share food, but also create an environment there for food security, to be able to produce really high quality food. And then, obviously training, be it business, be it physical, be it, mind. They're sort of the three key pillars. So what's come about there at the village is just a reflection of the core values of all of us, every UNCOM player. It's just the physical representation of that we can... we've done a lot of great stuff online together, but what would it look like if we could come together in a place that's kind of purpose-built for our values? That's the best way I can describe what UNCOM Village is and the origin of why it's come about.
That's really cool. So when you're building the island, or not, you're not building the island, but kind of building the village on the island, how are you taking it from kind of zero to all the infrastructure? Is there any kind of existing things there, or are you bringing everything?
No, so it's just a patch of dirt on the. Well, it's not a patch of dirt. It's a beautiful beachfront site, and then 296 acres of epic prime farming land. But there's nothing there. There's coconut trees and there's grass. So we've gone in the first trip. I'll make sure I'll send the links to Steph to make sure he can pass on to you. But there's some videos from the first trip over there which kind of show you how it looked. And then once we'd finished what we were doing there, but no, just kind of picture kind of like the guys on those YouTube channels that go into the jungle and clear the grass out of the way and start building. That's pretty much what we're working with.
Yeah, I saw a couple of the things that you posted. It's kind of, I don't want to say jungle, but like you can see the area that you've cleared out, and everywhere else around it, it's kind of just a mess of plants. And
yeah,
did you bring the cows there? I saw a video with the cows.
No. There's already a few different people running cattle on the island, but we are running some as well. In fact, that's one of the pieces that I really wanted to include in the village was anyone that's actually participating and taking an active investment role in the village. They're actually given, well, it depends on what level they come in at, but they're given a couple of cattle that then they're responsible to make the decisions on what happens with. So I wanted to add the real life kind of Farmville gaming aspect to where maybe you'd never buy a cow in your life. I don't know, but there's some people that it wouldn't be on their radar. So then participating in the village, you now own 3 head of cattle. So it's okay, Matt, what are you going to do? Are you going to grow them out and sell them and then buy some breeding cattle and then start a herd and you've got yourself a commercial cattle business? Are you going to eat them? I'm assuming you're not a vegan, so maybe eating them is an option. Or are you going to send them to the meatworks and sell the meat and buy another 2 younger cattle and fatten them out? So yeah, we wanted to add that. That's why the cattle will feature prominently in lots of the footage we do, is because you'll be able to live vicariously through your cow until you get to the island.
Yeah, I really like that. I've dabbled with the idea in my head of, could I take care of 2 cows and could I get the space for 2 cows in the US? But my dad's family are all dairy farmers, so they have plenty of cattle for our whole family. And I had a herd share for a little while so I could get raw milk here just because I thought I would get it. But I think that, have you made kind of decisions on what you're going to grow in terms of crops and produce, or is there kind of going along with the system that's already in place there?
Yeah, it's following traditionally what's worked there, though there is some scope for us to introduce some other fruits, I think, into what's happening there. But yeah, locally they eat a lot of, they call it kumara, but it's just like a sweet potato, like a yam. And then, mainly a lot of different fresh fruits, bananas, pineapples, papaya. They do have some sort of orange cross kind of mandarin. They have limes. So yeah, a lot of stuff just grows wild there as well. Coconuts, obviously, they're everywhere. We're actually, I got to tell you a quick story with coconuts. So we stopped to get a cold coconut in town because that's a thing. They cut them, put them in the fridge. At this one really nice little cafe there over on the mainland. There's no cafes, there's no shops on the island. It's a 2-kilometer trip across the passage. So there was 3 of us, and we said we'll have a coconut each. Oh, sorry, we only have 2. We no got coconuts. And we look out there's a deck at the back of the cafe, and there's 5 coconut trees at the end of the deck, all with there's probably 15 coconuts, maybe 15 meters from the counter of the. no got coconuts. We haven't had a delivery. So yeah, it was quite the joke for the guys at Witness. They're like, "What do you mean coconuts?"
Lyndon, I wanted to shift the focus quickly from Vanuatu. Both myself and Matt, we're part of UNCOM Launch at the moment, and I can speak for myself on this, but I've had. Since being part of UNCOM, I've had more and more of an involvement with Paul Council, who I know that you've had a lot of work to do with. How is he, as assuming him being a mentor for you, but how has he been that type of mentor for you in your path forward to where you're going, or the direction you're heading in now?
Yeah. Yeah, look, super grateful that Keegan made that connection originally, because Paul did have quite an impact on the direction of where I headed. So I was lucky enough to be part of the original Elite Money Club, EMC version 1, and then I worked a little bit with Paul on the ensuing programs that followed, the Gen Freedom program and the Inner Circle, which was kind of a more in-depth dive with a group of people that came through the Elite Money Club the first time. So the biggest takeaway, I already had some wins and some successes in life, but the biggest takeaway and the biggest learning from working with Paul was the understanding the right way of thinking and being conscious of my language patterns. So we don't have time to dive all the way into that today, but the bottom line is your language matters, and sometimes it might be the words that you don't even know that you're saying that are holding you back from achieving what you could actually achieve. So for me, I did a one-to-one session with Paul where we do the genius type testing, etc., which that's kind of plugged into the spiral dynamics, which you guys will be I think you'll be lucky enough to get a weekend on spiral dynamics. I can't remember which month it is, but I'd have to go and look. But there's definitely some good time in there on that content. So that had a huge impact on me then going forward, where I could let go of that right, wrong, good, bad, and just it just is. So there's no such thing as the right decision for me. There's just the best thing to do. And so that definitely made that was kind of like the Tony Robbins talks about the tiny changes. When you hit a golf ball, 2 millimeters is in the water, or 2 millimeters that way is on the green. So for me, that was the tiny change that now, taking the trajectory out the last 18 months, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for Keegan putting together that Elite Money Club #1 and bringing Paul to that group of people, for sure. So super super grateful to both.
I can attest
Paul
to that too.
Keegan for being involved in that.
One of my big products or offers was born in that 30-minute car ride after meeting you for the first time, like coming into Brisbane, and then the train, and then the bus, and then getting in the car with you. And it's like, you can definitely tell that you've put that practice in yourself, and you can see where it's getting you and then how it rubs up onto other people. Like for me, the transformations that have occurred in particular over the last 2 months since I met yourself in person, it's amazing. And we talk about this a lot. Like, this is where the UNCOM event comes into it too. The online stuff is fantastic. Like, doing this is great. Having the opportunity to speak with someone in America, someone in Queensland, and someone in South Australia is fantastic. But ultimately, bringing those people together is what is most important, I believe, and I'm sure that you guys would agree with me too, in order to be able to get like that maximal growth from a particular situation. So I'm so thankful for these opportunities, but also like for the UNCOM event, for example, what's coming up at the end of September. I'm really, really excited for something like that, again, because you can spend time with people in an environment that's going to help you grow, that's going to help you explore new pathways, explore new opportunities too. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, I think it's...
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something... Go ahead.
Oh,
Matt.
no, I was going to piggyback off that really fast and say it's amazing to connect with people online like this. And I would never have met either of you without online. And I think, and you two had the experience in person, and I had it with, it's a little bit separate with the other ATG coaches in Florida. But there's something that's so much more potent about being in person. And it just, I don't know what it exactly is, hard to put your finger on it, but it's like I was there for 48 hours, and the amount of ideas that came out of that for me and for other people, just on like random side conversations, not even the main reason we were there, is an unbelievable thing.
Yeah, it's hard to go past the power of the in-person connection. And I mean, again, I'm grateful that we've been able to connect, that we've had the technology to be able to connect in the last couple of years with what's going on in the world. It's been brilliant. But I guess, overlaying the event, Steph, like you talked about, then over the village, whereas what if you could go and have that whenever you wanted? It didn't have to be just a once a year or a once a quarter. It's like, cool. We spend 48 hours together or whatever it may have been with the ATG coaches event you're talking about, Matt. But what if you could live, what if you could be in the same place for for 30 days and do it. Well, what if you could do an UNCOM 25 together in a place like Montenegro, in a place like Bali, or a place like Vanuatu? So yeah, the events get me buzzed for sure. And for me, it was about creating a framework where we could run an event and we could bring someone that didn't know what UNCOM is into that event, meet those people, and kind of have the journey that Pete's had, Steph, where he was kind of loosely part of a network, but not really part of the wider UNCOM community. Whereas now, off the back of the event. So that was really cool to see that happen. That's the framework that I'd love to be able to help others develop. Same with the villages. Everything we're doing is a framework that you could overlay over what you want to do, Matt. If you want to start your own village. So I'm happy to have those conversations. Yeah, actually, let me touch on that quickly. I'm happy to have those conversations with anyone that has any, if you've got an idea, draw it, and then book a call with me, and I'm happy to share with you what's worked as far as going from zero to fair way down the line with the village. I don't have all the answers to the questions, but we've solved a few things. So in-person events, massive. Yeah, anyone that's in Australia that hasn't seen, Steph's been posting some great content about what's going to happen here at the end of the month. So make sure you jump in and check it out, because it's
for sure.
Definitely
to have the opportunity, like
together.
I said, and I was the only one that came from South Australia, like the only one that travelled, and at that time it was like, oh wow, I'm the only one from somewhere else. But now it's like, why was I the only one from somewhere else? Because the experience that I had was insane. It was insane. And I was there, similar to you, Matt. I was there with yourself, Lyndon, from I think 9:30, 10 o'clock on the Friday, then had the event all day, pretty much Saturday, and then left at 6:45 in the morning on Sunday. So it was less than, I don't even know if that's actually 48 hours spending time with each other, but to have that 6 hours, probably the 6 to 8 hours spending it with more than just yourself, Lyndon, but with more people, to then now, I'm going back the end of September. I'm flying in on the 20th and leaving on the 27th, because I want to stay there for a week. And I am staying there for a week now, because I can see the value of actually being there for longer, surrounding myself with people, because the growth that I had after the less than 48 hours I spent with the people there at the UNCOM event at the farm gym with Luke and Keish and Pete and Nick and Daz and yourself, Lyndon, and Mitch and whoever else was there, Jamie. And it was just to have the opportunity to be in that environment. You can see how it reflects on your environment when you leave, or on what you do when you leave,
For sure. And that's something that was always there in every event that Keegan ever ran that I went to, and the people that I talked to that would go to the real movement events. That was always the same feedback. It's that was life-changing. And there's some amazing businesses, some amazing people that are products of those early events that Keegan ran. So for me, that's what's exciting, to take it bigger than just one person running the events, and to have these things, have a framework for these things to run, every quarter around the world. What you're describing there, Steph, needs to be shared with more people, and
you mentioned it in passing, but the UNCOM 25 in person, and I think that would be an amazing idea, because from what I can piece together in my head, is that the only reason not to say the only reason, but the online accountability is sort of we're not all in the same place, so we'll use online to do it. But I don't know that this has ever been sort of tested, or if anyone's ever done this, but what would happen if you did get 10, and I guess Keegan sort of ran it at his events, but maybe you have 10 or 15 or 20 people in the same place, and you run through that same UNCOM 25 that has been so successful for so many people online, separated and connected by the Telegram or the Discord or whatever, what kind of exponential difference that could have in person.
Yeah, no, it's huge. It's hard to put words to, as you're saying, Steph. It's something that you need to experience, and that's one of the challenges with with UNCOM in general that I've seen, is trying to actually explain the power of it. the power of that community, the power of the network, the power of the people. So, no, look, if people are listening that don't know what UNCOM is, I'm assuming most of your audience definitely know what UNCOM is. Yeah, dive in, because it could be you leading events in the next 6 months. Like, look at what you've done, Steph. There's a network of people that celebrate your success, and if the sum of the 5 people that you're around at the moment aren't lifting you up and celebrating your success, then it might be time to hang around some a different 5 people.
Thank you.
Environment really matters.
All that wouldn't have been possible had I not taken the leap of faith. I actually spoke with Keegan just after I'd finished up at the event in the sunny coast, and I said to him, like, for me, that was probably one of the scariest things I've ever done. Like, jump on a plane, go somewhere, fly somewhere, and not actually know who I'm meeting, or having, my parents would always say, don't meet up with strange people like that you met from the internet. I pretty much went against all of that, and I jumped into, like, obviously I didn't put the connection between Keegan, and I still haven't met Keegan, but like Keegan knowing you, and then other people knowing you, Lyndon, and doing things completely against what my gut is telling me to do, but then just doing it anyway. And now look, like you said, just reaping the rewards in that way of speaking, of being able to find ways to do my own event, and being able to surround myself with people who want to see me grow. Like, it's about taking that leap, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done, man. It would have been easy not to. So well done to you, Steph, for taking the leap. We've probably got time for maybe one more question to wrap up, but I do have another call just after 8 here that I'll have to jump on.
Yeah. So one thing that I think of when I am looking at different areas where people live, and it even can go on sort of a micro level. Like, I lived in the middle of a big city 2 months ago, and now I'm sort of in the suburb of it. We have some more space. And then the rest of my family lives, like, their nearest neighbor is a mile down the road, and they have a couple hundred acres. How do you look at that idea of the benefit or negatives of having a lot of people around you versus having a lot of space and spending a ton of time with a select few people?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, I focus on leading by example, and to date, that's attracted the people that need to be around me, versus focusing on, do I have enough or not enough people, access to people around me. So the other thing I'd say to that is there is a lot of land around that's not being used, that is in close proximity to a lot of people. So I don't subscribe to the belief that you have to, go out to the middle of nowhere to get your big block of land to be able to get some space. So there's a lot of vacant farmland around the US. There's a lot of vacant farmland around every country on the outskirts of towns and counties. Would it be crazy to think those farmers are just waiting for you, Matt?
I wouldn't call it unreasonable.
Oh, I think we lost Lyndon. He's gone. No, that's all good. That's a good way to end. All right.
That was he had the answer. Drop the mic.
Mic drop. Love it. Well, we'll finish up there. I know Lyndon's whole Instagram portfolio. So he's at Lifestyle Fastlane. Lyndon Holtzeimer is his name. Give him a follow, guys, because he's been a massive influence on my life, and I've only known the guy for probably 3 and a bit months, and he has significantly changed my life in so many ways. So get onto the Instagram, start following. If you want to learn more about Uncommon Success, like, you can have a chat with myself. I do know a little bit more about it than Matt does at the moment, but Matt is slowly diving into Uncom Launch, that's for sure. But get in contact with Lyndon. Like, check out the Vanuatu project. Check out the other things that he's talking about too. We've got the Uncom event coming up in September 24th, 25th. So that's going to be up on the Sunshine Coast, which is cool and exciting. If there are any thoughts at all of you wanting to get involved, or you're curious to know a little bit more, reach out to myself. I'm at Coach Carly with the 3 eyes on Instagram, and TikTok still there. Matt, I got to get rid of that. I think they're spying on me. And then we've also got YouTube, which I'm not very active on. So Instagram, reach out to me on there. Matty, where can they find you?
At Score Performance, SK, the 2 A's and an R, Performance on everywhere, fun, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We are on Spotify too, so anybody listening, if you did like it, a follow, and I don't know that you can rate it on Spotify, but a like and a follow on our page would be greatly appreciated to get more people
I just
listening.
got a text message from Lyndon just then saying his Wi-Fi just restarted. So he's that's what happens when you live on the farm, I guess. We'll leave it there.
That's classic Australia Wi-Fi.
We'll leave it there. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll speak again soon.
Awesome.